Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I am here again to host the Silent Minority. And with me, as always, is Hudson. Hudson, say to the people.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. And since it is the new year, we felt like this episode will be a really nice time to kind of recap some of the stories that we felt like were the most impactful for the year, share some of our thoughts. Some of these are things that we covered previously, some of them we actually never got a chance to touch on. And so we felt like this would be very entertaining for you. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and let's take a trip down memory lane, starting
Hey,
with
and you know what? This is not in any list of importance.
no, no,
So
no.
many moments happened in 2022. We can't possibly put them all into one show. So
And just be
bear with
right.
us.
So just because we leave something off doesn't mean that it wasn't important. It's just we only got an hour. We don't want to keep y'all too long. So
Yeah.
we picked a few things that we felt like was really, really important to touch on. Starting with Deion Sanders. So I'm sure many of you
Ooh.
already know he left Jackson State, and it just caused a whirlwind of conversation and emotions that's honestly still ongoing. There are still a lot of people who feel some kind of way about how all that happened. And I felt like it was worth touching on it again. So, for those who don't remember, he was at Jackson State for, I think it was 2 years, right?
A little over two
Two,
years.
a
Yeah.
little over 2 years, just said records, just did massive things for their program, took them to heights that I don't think they've really ever seen before. And then he left, and he essentially left a historically black college for what is a majority white institution. And a lot of people were upset, felt like it was a betrayal considering his rhetoric while he was at Jackson State, basically claiming himself as a savior and someone who was really going to lift up SWAC overall. And then becoming someone who basically took the money the first chance he got. And there are other people who are saying, well, why should it be his responsibility to take less money? And why can't he be a person to go to these white institutions and hopefully break some ceilings for other black men who might want to pursue being coaches and being in positions of leadership, which historically has been very difficult positions for black men to get into. So a lot of people sitting on both sides of the fence. Hudson, how do you feel about it?
I mean, we ain't got enough time to really dive really head first into this, but for me, it's when people keep saying, "Hey, the money this," or he was looking for a boost up. It's this complaint of that we're using the HBCUs to take a step up and go somewhere else. And my
Mhm.
reply to that is, who isn't? The HBCUs, as any college, is designed for you to step up off of them and catapult up. Now the
Mhm.
problem is he went to a PWI, which is what people seem to have the biggest issue with, right? And but the thing is that he always could have went to a PWI, right? That's what I think people are missing. He always could have went there. As far as the money, he probably could have got that same money from them,
Mhm.
probably going to that PWI in the first place. He didn't need to go to a HBCU. He's Deion freaking Sanders. He's a Hall of Fame cornerback, and there are plenty of below average PWI football programs that would have happily took him, right?
Mhm.
So to say that he used this HBCU like he needed to use them to do this, I think is insane. I don't think he had any need to use them. So what ended up happening, in my opinion, and of course it's my opinion. I don't know the HBCU. I don't know Deion Sanders personally, but to me, what you have a problem with is when you have someone who's excellent at what they do. He's a Hall of Famer. Probably in the top five of any cornerback room that you will ever think of in life. Right? When you have
Mhm.
a guy like that, he expects excellence back. He wants certain things back for his time, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think Jackson State was ready to do it. I just don't think it, and I don't think Deion Sanders thought they were ready to do it.
There's
So
no
Deion
question they weren't.
Sanders said, "Hey, I think Deion Sanders did the honorable thing and just bowed out. Said y'all not ready." Is
Mhm.
basically what he said.
Mhm.
Until you all are ready, there's no point in me being here. And the
Mhm.
only other thing I'll say to this, unless I got some rebuttal to anything you say some more, the last thing I'm going to say, for my response is they still had 2 years with them, over 2 years with them, right? And to act like that Jackson State is just going to go now into the abyss and go back into to being a below average, program like they were before Deion Sanders, whose fault is that? Right?
Right.
If I got 2 years with the best in the world in any field, and I was there to take their knowledge, to work with them side by side, to be with them for 2 years, are you gonna say it's his fault if I become nothing when he's gone? I get 2 years with a Hall of Fame, cornerback, one of the best in the business, knows how to win, right? I should be better for it, even if he leaves after 2 years. So it's on
Fact.
Jackson State if they don't want to continue to have the best football program. It's on Jackson State if they don't want to elevate the rest of the programs that they have at that school, whether sports, academically, or whatever.
So I agree with everything that you said. I understand that there are a lot of people who have criticisms regarding the way that he presented himself, as far as, I'm the savior. I'm going to lift up the program, et cetera, et cetera. But let's be honest, this is what all college coaches do. All college coaches have to present themselves in this way so that they can get those kids to put their absolute best performance out on the field. It's what is
Exactly.
absolutely required for the job. So I'm sorry, I just don't feel like it's a portrayal for Sanders to have done that and then moved on to another opportunity. Out of all the people who have given a take on this, I really, really liked Roland Martin's the best, because Roland made it clear that he's kind of felt put in similar situations where all of the weight is on him and people want him to do so much, and there's no pressure put on the other people who are doing absolutely nothing. So you have this whole wave of folks who've got all these thoughts on the work Deion should be doing and how he should keep staying there and how he should turn down these massive opportunities and these massive contracts all for the love. And there's no pressure whatsoever on the people who are doing absolutely nothing. Like, all these stories have come out now about the money that Deion Sanders has had to put into his own program just
Yep.
to get these kids their necessary uniforms, their meals, things that they need,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. The way that it's supposed to work is that the business owners and the other people in the area are supposed to be putting money into the program to help out these kids. You're supposed to be fundraising to make that happen so that the coach isn't coming out of his own salary to do that. So if there are so many black folks in that area who had so much respect for what Deion Sanders was doing and so appreciative of it, why weren't they the ones ponying up the bill? Why
Yep.
weren't they the ones stepping up to hold up this program and say, hey, we're going to go all in on this and we're going to make this something special and something beautiful? I absolutely agree with what you said, Hudson. Deion Sanders expects excellence from himself. That's the standard that he holds himself to. And in anything that he's involved in, he's going to expect excellence from those around him. And he was not getting excellence from anybody except the students. He was not getting excellence from the programs. He was not
Yep.
getting excellence from these business owners and these other entities around the program who should have been funneling money into it to help assist in the areas where Deion Sanders instead ended up having to come out of pocket. He was
Yep.
just not getting the level of effort and excellence that he was putting in after 2 years. So it's very difficult for me to blame him for leaving. And like you said, he has laid out the blueprint. Is there anybody else who could follow that blueprint as well as he could? Probably not. But
Right.
50% of Deion Sanders is still better than what Jackson State was before. So the
Yep.
question should be, who's going to come into that program, pick up the baton, and say, I'm going to run with this as best as I can and try to keep that momentum going and keep this program improving. We've got to start putting more pressure on the black folks who refuse to do anything, who aren't doing anything for their community, who aren't pushing for excellence, who aren't really trying to help. Instead of trying to always point fingers and place blame on the ones who have decided, you know what, I'm going to try to be the very best that I can be, and keep telling them, well, you should be willing to turn down opportunities and turn down money for the love of these people who in turn are not stepping up for you.
Yeah, and let's be clear: the money he's going to get at Colorado ain't nothing to him either. I mean,
It's a
it's
fact.
more than what he got at Jackson State, but it ain't nothing to him either. So I mean,
He's used to
let's
big
be real
money.
about it.
It's the
Right.
opportunity. It's the
You know,
opportunity that is really working for him.
and what do we expect? Deion Sanders. Do we expect him to spend the next 30 years clocking in 9 to 5 at this Jackson State football program? How long did we
No,
expect him to stay? He was
no.
at 5 different teams for his entire career in the NFL. I mean,
Yeah.
where did
Yeah.
what did we expect him? People who are excellent, they spread it. They don't stay in any one place. They just don't. You don't see it.
hmm
So
hmm
yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. So, but again, major story for this year. We definitely felt like it was worth covering before. And something tells me this is going to keep being a major story in 2023, especially when we start seeing how Deion Sanders does in his new environment.
yeah.
But that,
And now Ed Reed, right?
oh,
Just
that's a
took that
great
Bethune
call.
Cookman.
Woo! Hey,
Yeah,
I love those pictures of Ed Reed. He looks black.
yeah,
He looks black in them photos. I swear, for God, he looked like Uncle at the cookout in them
yep,
photos. I can't.
yep.
I am looking forward to Coach Ed Reed. Absolutely. So
Hmm.
yeah, and that's actually a trend I got no problem seeing. Like I
Yep,
feel like there might be a lot of brothers who didn't have enough confidence in themselves to step out like this, who saw Deion Sanders and now Ed Reed doing it, and they're
exactly.
like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. If the NFL won't allow me to
Yep,
be a leader, they won't give me a chance. I'm gonna carve my own path and I'm gonna make my own way. And again,
exactly.
if we end up getting more and more of these brothers going to HBCUs, using their clout and their networking to try to lift those programs up, and then use that as a launching pad to go on and have even more success as a college professional, that's only going to help those programs. As
Yep.
long as those programs have the leadership in place that is actually going to take advantage of the momentum, it's only going to help them. Even if they only get these guys for a couple of years, just a
Yeah.
couple of years is still going to be enough to have a bunch more people putting eyes on you. You'll be able to shake hands with a bunch of people who would have never
Yeah.
even opened the door for you before. This is a good thing. So let's keep it going and feed into that.
And that's the real thing about it. That is why
Mhm.
you get a Deion Sanders. That's why you get an Ed Reed, because you don't want to pay them the money they're
Right.
worth for the next 30 years.
Hell
No, you don't.
no.
You want that experience for a couple years. You want to learn from it and you want to benefit. Like that deal that he made with ESPN, to showcase the games. I mean, how
Yeah.
long is that going to last? So that is money in their pockets for however long. So that's what you want. You don't want to pay the best in the world to stay there. You want to earn from them. That's what you should be doing.
Facts. Facts. Absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah. Yeah. So, but that was definitely one of the biggest stories of the year. That was the main story that both of us agreed we want to talk about. Now we're going to get into some other stories that each of us separately decided is something we really wanted to cover. So, Hudson, I'll let you go first. What is something that happened in 2022 that was a major story for you?
It wasn't a specific story on any news channel or station, but basically my thing is we just totally just said, we just totally tried to bully COVID just totally out of the picture in this country.
Absolutely.
And it was just a sharp contrast because I still vividly remember how scared people were when we were all sitting by computers or sitting watching television, listening to any news we could hear about, hey, this state has saw its first. I still remember
Mhm.
hearing about the very first confirmed case in the US and then watching all the other states start falling like dominoes, sitting at
Right.
work going, and I remember my fear. Like I almost had an anxiety attack because the place I worked at had two Chicagoland locations at the time. I was
Mhm.
at one and I heard that there was a case at the other Chicago location. I was like, "You're not seeing me here tomorrow. That's it. I'm working from home. That's it.
Mhm.
Y'all not gonna see me here."
Mhm.
I was so scared. And this whole thing started off. I remember this whole thing started off just like the zombie movies do. Right, this whole thing started off just like that, and and so you can't even convince me right now that a variant of COVID is not going to become a zombie virus, whether it be in 100 years, in 50 years, whatever. You can't convince me of that right now. Just the way this whole thing started, but you know, in 2020, all of 2020, we're just watching it unfold, and then we're just sending everybody home. We're canceling everything. The NBA, I think they were the first major entity to really just shut it all down.
Right.
Like, and I remember commenting then, it's like when all these old white money people
Mhm.
say, hey, we're going to stop production right now, you know it's got to be a problem. They were scared. And so they stopped the NBA and all of that. So 2020, nobody did anything. And then in
Mhm.
2021, we're reopening, we're kind of doing this half in, half out thing, work from home, everybody's wearing a mask, this, that, or the other. Um, we're trying to strike some sort of a balance. But 2022 hit, and it was like everybody just said, I'm sorry, fuck that, y'all. I ain't wearing no mask. I'm going out. We going to all these parties. We're doing this. We're doing that.
Facts.
Everybody's yeah, everybody's just pretty much trying to act like and just bully our way past it and say, enough of us took the vaccine, we're not getting sick as bad with it now. So just, fuck it, it's here. We're
Mhm.
just gonna move on with our lives, however bad the lives might be for some people who get this thing, you know. 'Cause some people are still very, get very sickly, or have compromised immune systems, and that's what I worry about. And I just don't want it. I just don't want it. There's still too many unknowns. We only knew about COVID-19. We didn't really know about COVID-19 until 2020.
Right.
So the 19 is supposed to stand for 2019. So that's when they started finding out about it, but we didn't really know too much about it. We heard a blurb here and there late 2019, but we didn't really know nothing until 2020. So I don't want no parts of it. And it's like I'm one of like less than 1% who is walking around with a mask now. I'm still staying super, trying to stay super safe, trying to keep my kids from getting it, and it's like the walls are caving in now. Everyone's fighting against me to trying to give me these looks. And Samori, I don't care about no looks. You can look at me all
Mhm.
you want with this mask on. I don't give a damn. I'm
Mhm.
gonna have my mask on, look you dead in the face. You got a problem with it? You got a problem with my mask?
So I am definitely one of those people who is walking around maskless, who was basically decided to bully my way past COVID and all that stuff. I am vaccinated. I still don't have my booster yet, but that is going to be a high on my priority list in the first couple of months of next year to go ahead and get that done, because I'm basically of the mindset
I've
that
gotten 2 boosters already.
yeah, I haven't gotten one. I haven't gotten one. And it makes no sense. Yeah, I own that. I own that. I need to go ahead and get the boosters. But I'm sorry, for me, I didn't get the whole point of me getting vaccinated was so I didn't have to wear a mask anymore. Was so I
Mhm.
didn't have to be afraid anymore. And I feel like a lot of the reason that people want to keep, like, absolutely, there are people whose systems are compromised, and for them getting COVID is a danger. But those people existed before COVID, and there were things that they could get, like the flu and other
Mhm.
things that could potentially be spread around. We weren't wearing masks then, so it doesn't make sense to me that now all of a sudden I have to wear masks because of those people. So to me, when folks are saying that, well, you should still wear masks when you go out, what you're really saying is there's a whole bunch of people who have decided they're not going to get vaccinated, and those people are vulnerable. They could get COVID, they could die, things could happen to them. And so, to protect these people, I should keep wearing a mask. I don't believe in that shit at all. I just don't. If those people have decided that they just not gonna get vaccinated, that it's the way for the government to implant microchips into you, or to take control of your mind, or to run biological tests on everybody, and that they're the smart ones for not getting the vaccine, Let the people do what they're gonna do and be who they're gonna be. If it turns out that what they're saying is not true and COVID is gonna kill them, that shit is natural selection. It's not my responsibility to wear a mask to protect these people. I don't believe in that shit. I absolutely believe that you should not only get vaccinated and protect yourself, but when you have the opportunity, you should let other people know you should be vaccinated. You should go ahead and protect yourself in that way because we want this to spread as little as possible. But the idea that I'm not going to go to public gatherings, that I'm going to wear a mask everywhere, that I won't touch anybody because of the threat of COVID, because all these people refuse to get vaccinated, I'm not with it. I'm just not with
Now,
it at all.
now, see, I understand that portion, but for me, it's like I know wearing the mask. I know, according to a lot of people, scientists or whatever, it's actually more protection for the person I'm in contact with.
Right.
Wearing a mask helps them more than it helps me, but it
Exactly.
still helps me somewhat as well.
That's
And
true.
so
That's
I'm
true.
still wearing it for me. I'm not wearing it because I give a damn about anybody who ain't been vaxxed. And then my other part about it is that over the years, flu variants have been more predictable than what we know of these COVID variants right now.
That's a
And
fact.
and once the COVID variants become more predictable, I will ease up. But they just
You
not
ain't never gonna ease
predictable
up.
enough for me.
Folks, I know this man very well, and he has decided that he is gonna be a person who's scared of COVID. We gonna be 40 years later. You gonna still be wearing a mask, talking about the data isn't conclusive yet. I need to keep this bad boy on and protect myself. You barely
Hey,
come
look here.
outside. I don't.
Look
I
here.
don't.
Truth
I don't
is,
believe for a second there's anything the CDC can say to you that's gonna have you coming outside on a regular basis. I
look here.
don't believe it.
Truth is, 2020 was the best year of my life health wise. I didn't come in contact with any of you sick bastards. And I didn't get a flu. I didn't catch a damn cold in 2020. You know how good that felt not to get sick an entire damn year. So, hey, I don't want shit to tell the
got
honest
you.
truth. I don't
I
want the
got you.
flu. I don't want nothing. Okay. But it's mainly on the COVID thing. I just don't trust it. We have no long-term statistics on it, and I guess we just won't maybe in my lifetime. But I just feel like we're all going to end up in those commercials later on that say, hey, were you among the first to take the Moderna vaccine and blah, blah, we have this lawsuit, this class action lawsuit we're doing, people's testicles are going to burst open when they're 80. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. But, I'm just saying that it's just too many unknowns with regards to the vaccines, to this, to that. Now, I went on here, got the vaccines, of course. I mean, what am I going to do? I just got to go with it and hope the ones I got will stay safe for the rest of my life. And I'm not a part of one of those lawsuits. Because in those lawsuits, all you get is like $500 and a slap on the ass and say, hey, thanks for coming. But
basically. It's not
so
gonna do nothing for you.
I feel it. I get it. Like I said, I'm with you. I don't care about protecting somebody who decided they're not going to get the vaccine. They're not going to trust vaccines. I don't give that. They playing Russian roulette with their shit. That's on them. So
And
you're
I'm
right
coming from
about
the
that.
standpoint of the mask does more for them. It's really to protect them. Like it's only doing a little bit for you.
Yeah. But and truth is, even with that, I don't want to give anything to anybody. Just going out to a couple of big events this past, like we talk off camera a lot, and I told you I've been sitting down there for almost 2 months straight now, because of just a couple big gatherings I went to, and my kids involved in winter concerts and winter dances, and let's be honest, I think my little girl is great at putting on her mask, but she a kid, so she taking that bad boy off. She want to eat while she at the winter dance and all that. So I know her mask was off the whole damn time, eating on it and drinking. Right. So, it's like, I ain't gonna be able to protect against it forever. And I think we finally ended up getting it this past few weeks. But even still, I don't want to get it again. Because who knows how it's going to affect your system the next time. You just don't know. It's a crapshoot. It could be okay this time. It could be horrible the next. Who knows?
The first time I caught COVID, I had completely closed myself in. Like I was at home every day. I was not going out at all. I hadn't went out in months, and I still somehow caught COVID. Once that happened, I was like, okay, I'm getting vaccinated, but otherwise I'm just gonna live my life because I just don't feel like I can control. Like my father was going out every damn day. He didn't catch it at all. In fact, when he finally caught it, he caught it from me because I was dropping my daughter off at his house. I was going straight to his house, dropping Simone off, coming straight back home. Somehow I had caught it and he caught it from me. Like that was like that was it. When that whole thing happened, I was like, okay, there's just no point. There's just
Well,
I can't control it.
you know what it was is that's experience right there, Playboy. He could look at somebody and be like, "Oh, that's sickly, motherfucker. I ain't gonna stand next to him." He probably, he probably got that laser sharp eyes, like he's sick. Yeah, I ain't gonna.
I wouldn't be
sick.
surprised.
They look okay.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. That was a major part of 2022. No real direct news stories about it, but it's been crazy the way we're kind of just trying to barrel past COVID as best we can. And the hope is that no mutated crazy versions come out that all of a sudden become much more difficult to deal with. Overall, my side, something that I thought was crazy in 2022 is watching the absolute plummet and decline of Kanye West. We spoke about this on the show. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts me. Definitely was a big Kanye fan. Definitely was a big Kanye supporter. To see this be how it ends, and of course, it's not necessarily the end. He's still got a mic. He's still able to say whatever he wants. He's still able to make music. He's still able to live his life. As long as you're alive, there's still hope. But let's be honest, the possibility that he'll ever be a billionaire again, that he'll ever be able to reach the height that he previously had, very slim, very, very extremely slim. And so it's just to me, it was really, really nice. A black man from Chicago who, in a lot of times, really, really stood up for black people and used his intellect, his creativity, and success to catapult himself to a billionaire status. To me, it was a big deal. To me, through all his faults, through all his issues, the symbol of what he was a big deal. And to see that fall, because of self-inflicted wounds, it's not like the white man did this to you. It's really because of what you're doing to yourself. Like, yes, I understand that people took the comments that he made about the Jewish community much more seriously than they sometimes take comments about the black community. I understand that. I understand that that's an issue. I understand that's definitely something that should be addressed. But that doesn't change the fact that a lot of the things that he said were absolutely disrespectful as fuck. And that's before the Hitler comments. That's before the Hitler comments. So it's not like I can look at what's going on with him and say, like, well, y'all should just really give this a pass and let this go. Like, it is just no way. And I separate his stuff from Kyrie Irving. I feel like the Kyrie Irving stuff is completely separate as far as how I feel like it's been dealt with. But the Kanye West stuff, it was just crazy. It was just craziness back to back to back from someone that I used to really admire and respect. And it was hard. It was hard for me to watch.
You know what was crazy about that whole, when he started his Hitler comments, things like that. Yeah, so many people trying to
Rooting
defend
for
him, trying to defend him, and it's almost he was like sitting there. He was like, "All right, I said some good shit. Let me go ahead, take me a drink." And then he started looking in comments and seeing people defending him. He was like, "Whoa, hold on, Hitler."
All right.
Let me just clear it up for you. Okay. It's like,
I'm not the person you should be standing behind.
Exactly. So I gotta respect him for saying, let me lay this flag in the sand right here. and say,
Ooh.
there's a clear line of what I'm doing.
When you got what's his name, Alex Jones, Infowars guy,
Man,
when you got him flabbergasted, when he's looking like, yo, I don't want to be associated with what this man is saying. Hold on,
man,
you know you've messed up because that dude is with anything. He's
man.
down for anything. Kanye West had him looking around like he's crazy. That damn, bro.
Well, who's that? Who's that podcast? Who had that show and Kanye almost destroyed him by coming on there just spewing
Drink
off his.
champs,
Yeah,
Noriega.
and he didn't want to say nothing, and then he gonna try to backtrack it. I was just letting him talk, I would because I was scared he was gonna leave if I said anything.
Right.
Right? Kanye almost completely ruined that man's career. He had to quickly take that off. But
Yeah.
I think the proof that black folks were really just kind of black folks, I think for the most part, were really kind of done with him, even if they were still trying to defend the little shit he was saying. Was the Adidas deal, and because it didn't really sway black folks back to Adidas. I mean, black folks still are done with Adidas, and to be quite honest, I'm gonna just tell you, I didn't even know he was with Adidas until this shit popped up.
Neither did I.
I didn't even know. And so, clearly they weren't doing any heavy marketing. Clearly he hadn't shown any love to black folks with Adidas. I'm not saying he purposely left black folks out,
Right.
but he did nothing to try to bring black folks into Adidas, say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm black and I'm proud. This is why I'm going to Adidas. It was nothing of that. And I didn't even know. And then on top of that, he brings out all this ugly shit that, black folks ain't going to be down for because we don't like wearing ugly shit. We just don't. And I just got to be real. His shit is ugly. What he was coming out with was straight garbage, and he's charging $8,000 for garbage.
It's garbage for our culture, for the things that we usually wear.
It's garbage for their culture. I'm just gonna say, for any culture buying this garbage, it looks like garbage all the way around. It looks like that stuff on those dumbass fashion shows where people are walking around on those fashion shows, walking all awkward and not knowing this is shit no one's gonna wear outside. It's just at a fashion
It was selling.
Show.
It was selling. Come on now.
And they took it and said, why don't we actually make this stuff retail for the people outside to actually wear it? And boy, I'm telling you. But I mean, like you said, it made money. Just, black folks, I think
it's a popular.
Yeah, I think at that point that just kind of proved that we're trying not to say we're done with them, but we were done, and then this just took it over the edge.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate to me, but definitely a huge story for the year. Hudson, you had another one you want to talk about?
The Russian Russian invasion of the Ukraine.
Ooh.
I mean, that was close to the beginning of the year, and Putin been talking about invading Ukraine for a decade, over that, just invading them forever. And the talks really started heating up at the end of 2021, where, lots of U.S. officials started coming out and saying, an invasion of the Ukraine is imminent. And even with that, I can't say that I took it with any kind of like realistically at all. I still didn't think he was actually going to do it. But he did. And they bumbled around. What was predicted to last for a few days is still going on to this minute. And I think what it's proven to me is that none of these big countries learn anything from our blunder in Vietnam. Our blunder of spending 40 years in the Middle East. These smaller countries are not just going to roll over. These smaller countries, these prideful countries, these countries who believe in what they are doing and who they are
on a
right.
biblical level. This
Exactly.
isn't about economics. This isn't
Yeah,
about individualism. On a biblical level, we have a
exactly.
responsibility to pick up arms and fight you.
Exactly. And it's really proven that you know the biggest weapon that big countries such as Russia, such as the US, the biggest weapon we have is the threat of military action.
Mhm.
But once we go in there, it's clear that we can't control what happens next. We can't control the outcome. It's
Mhm.
very clear. And so, the only thing we can do is try to bankrupt the country. Basically, the country goes bankrupt defending itself from us. But we can't win. If Putin was really smart about this, if Russia was really smart about this, they would come out for 6 months. They come out for 6 months and then they go back in. Because once all the military aid stops to the Ukraine for 6 months, once these countries feel like a breath of relief, like, okay, we got our money now, our money's starting to flow right, our economies are starting to get back on track. And so we're doing what we want to do there. And then Russia goes back in. Now Ukraine asks for the assistance again. They're gonna be like, you know, I don't know if we want to put that money back into it. Maybe Russia just wants it more. And so I think if Russia was smart, they play that game, pull out, they go back in 6 months, see what happened. But
Right.
other than that, I mean, I don't support the war that Russia has waged. You know, but at the end of the day, Russia has proven that there's no more. And to me, it was proven in Vietnam. There's no more just running over these small countries, thinking you're just going to go in and it's just going to be over in 7 days. Even if they had been able to bum rush them enough to get the capital, to claim a victory in 7 days, there was going to be years and years of guerrilla warfare and fighting after that. It was going to be
Mhm.
no real victory. It's just going to be a victory on a news camera. Hey, we're victorious, but there was going to be so much fighting after that, just like it was with the US and the Middle East. All these years we spent over there, and what do we have to show for it? And like you said, it gets biblical. These
Mhm.
people believe wholeheartedly in what they're doing. And you can't just roll over people who believe in what they're doing, who's like, this is my home, I'm going to defend it with everything. All these things these gun nuts claim of
Mhm.
what they're going to do if someone tries to take their guns. No,
Mhm.
these other countries are serious about that shit.
Mhm.
They are serious about you coming and taking that shit, and they are battle hardened.
Mhm. So I think the interesting thing in this situation is, yes, Ukrainians, they have a lot of national pride. They've banded together and they're fighting to keep their country independent. But when you talk about believing things on the biblical level, like for Russians, it's not religious, but they deeply believe the Ukraine is a part of Russia and that you should be a part of this country and that you never should have had independence in the first place. And I don't believe they're giving up, to be honest with you. I think they're going to fire as many rockets, as many bullets. They're going to put as many soldiers on the ground as it takes to make this happen. I think the interesting thing about this war as well is it seems like Russia did not expect the international response. They had to expect that America was going to react negatively and try to support Ukraine in any way that they could. But it doesn't seem like Russia expected the overwhelming negative reaction from the general international public regarding what has occurred. And I think what's interesting to see play out is I feel like, ironically, a lot of anti-black hate is playing into this because a lot of these folks feel like, well, it should be black people that we're seeing fighting amongst each other. These kind of things happen in the Middle East where these little black tribes, they go to wars against each other instead of figuring out how to work it out. But for these upstanding white citizens who look just like me, blue hair, blue eyes, and blonde hair, for them to be firing rockets at each other and killing each other. Well, this just
Hmm.
doesn't happen. This this is an abomination. And so that's what you saw playing out on the news over and over and over again, with people saying, this kind of thing doesn't happen to people who look like this. This happens in the Middle East. And so it felt almost like people were incensed, not because of the politics, not because of the actual players involved, but the optics, how it looked on the TV screen, to see white people who essentially couldn't figure out how to work this shit out. And now, instead of throwing rockets at each other and bombing each other, killing each other's civilians and their soldiers, and essentially dragging these Ukrainians away in chains to take their damn
Hmm.
country. It's ugly as hell. And I mean, to go back again to the anti-black hate, to see the literal video footage of black people trying to get out of the Ukraine who were blocked because they said, no, these white people have to go first. These white people have to get on the trains first. Y'all got to figure out another way to get out of this country. And to see then the stories also come out of a lot of the leaders in Ukraine being flat out Nazis, and anti-black hate
Hmm.
being rampant in the country. Like, for me, it's all ironic just to see how it's all playing out. I think
Yeah.
the other I think the other interesting aspect is you have so many people upset who are looking at all the money that the United States is sending to the Ukraine and saying, how can you justify sending all that money there when you can barely take care of your citizens at home? Now, me personally,
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of that train of thought, because they're not the reason you're not getting that money is not because of all the other people getting money. It's because they don't want to give your ass any money. So you've got to you've got
Mhm.
to deal with the real problem, the real issue. I see so many people pointing fingers like, you're giving billions away to the Ukraine when we have homeless here in the United States, blah 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 blah. The senators don't give a damn about the homeless. It's not that
Yeah.
they don't give a damn about the homeless because of Ukraine. They don't give a damn about the homeless because they don't give a damn about the homeless. If nothing
Yep.
was happening in Ukraine, if we were not giving Ukraine a dime, the homeless was still not getting any money. Like,
Yeah.
that shit is irrelevant.
I mean, all this should prove is that the money is there.
This
That's
is a
all it should
fact.
prove.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
But we've always known the money is there. The United States
Yep.
prints extra money whenever it needs to. So whatever your little cause is, whatever you believe in, whatever you think is being underfunded, it's being underfunded because your representatives don't believe it matters. It's not because
Yep.
some other group or entity or country is getting money. That's not the problem. The problem is nobody
Yep.
cares. Nobody cares
Yep.
about you, and that's it.
Yep. Hmm. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but I definitely agree with you. Definitely another big story for this year. Something else. I think I'm going to pivot back to entertainment. I didn't mention this before we uh we had this call, but now I've been rolling through stories in 2022, and I've decided that this is a major one for me. We haven't talked about this yet on the show, but there's a rap artist named Young Thug who him and his entire record label are in the middle of a RICO case where the lawyers are using their lyrics, the things that they have spoken about, and the things that they have said on record in collaboration with wiretaps and phone recordings and things of that nature, to essentially say that it's a criminal organization, and they're basically trying to just round up everybody who's involved in this label and brand them as criminals. And to be honest, potentially rightfully so. I'm not trying to say like this is beyond the pale or anything like that, but I think it has a lot of people scared. Like, so a lot of these rappers, some of them are living completely fake lives, right? They're just rapping about things that
Hmm.
they're not involved in at all. But a lot of them are involved in these type of activities, they're just not involved in it on the scale and the level that they talk about in their lyrics. So the idea that they could be caught up in, being taken to prison or whatever for criminal activities, and that someone could pull their lyrics to try to support that case and say, look, this is the type of person he is. It's got a lot of them scared, and it's got brought up a lot of questions about, is this right? Is it okay for them to be treated in this way? Now, I think it's hard from a moral standpoint to make a case about whether or not it's right to take someone's art and try to use it to say that, well, these are the crimes that he would be willing to commit. Like you're trying to stifle a person's creativity and say you can't create certain things, or else we're going to turn around and put them in a court proceeding and use that to show that you're a criminal. But on the same token, this has become an art form where these people love to talk about the dead, love to talk about the folks that they've killed, love to talk about the horrific things, the horrific crimes that they've done. And when you're talking about the things that Young Thug and his associates are accused of, let's just be straight up. They didn't do this to white folks. They didn't do this to rich
Mhm.
folks. They didn't go out to the suburbs and make these threats and deal these drugs and kill these people. This was all in the community. This is all among the brothers and the sisters. So, on the one hand, I can look and say, well, the majority of people involved in this art form are black men. I don't want to see more black men in prison. And therefore, you trying to find another way to put more black men in prison, honestly, I find it unsettling. There's a part of me that seriously dislikes this. But on the other hand, you're doing it to people who oftentimes are directly involved in harming my community. Like, we just got to call it spade a spade. These dudes are not using their resources, their influence, and their power to reach it to outside communities and damaging them. No, no, they're reaching it to the very same communities that they grew up in and spreading those drugs around, threatening anybody who they feel like might be a threat to their operation, or sometimes flat out killing folks, killing other black people. And so to me, it's hard to see them, technically getting persecuted and really feel any sort of investment into it. Where, like, man, I think Jay-Z's trying to stop it in New York. He puts forward, he's trying to basically sue or put a case towards it and say, like, rappers shouldn't be held accountable for their lyrics. And I'm like, I kind of think that they should be. Like, I never advocate for people going to jail, but the fact of the matter is, considering how many black men we've seen fall down these holes, who feel like they have to deal drugs, they have to be gangsters, they have to be thugs. Like, that's the only way out. And we know that the culture is a huge part of that. I don't blame rappers for what's happening in the streets. What's happening in the streets is happening because the community is not stepping up. Things would be better if there were more adults who are willing to get involved in the lives of their kids. I don't blame them for what's happening, but they are absolutely, unquestionably not making things better. They're just not. They're just not. They're like basically everybody else, feeding on the desperation and the pain and finding a way to use it to enrich themselves. Why should I feel invested in supporting this bullshit? I just don't. But I still, I just find it's a conflicting subject for me, because I don't want to see more black men go to prison. To be honest with you, it hurts. It hurts because that's always been the answer in this country, that, hey, these crimes are happening, these things are occurring, put more black folks in prison. That's definitely going to solve it.
I think using the lyrics in that way is that's that's just like police do, try to find an easy way to get their convictions. And when you look at the bigger picture of it, you think about the gang databases that, police forces across the country and big cities started to do, and how now they just use, like, there's such a call to dismantle these gang databases now, because now it's just used for whether you were just a passing member of the gang, you may have never did a thing with the gang, but you were
Exactly.
just briefly identified. You were standing on the same corner as them. You might have a kind of a tattoo that might be closely related. You were a brother or a sister of somebody, and you somehow ended up in that gang database. It seems like it's a witch hunt, because it is. And it leads you down so many other different paths. I say, if you could specifically tie the lyrics into some way that they were using them to give instructions to their members, or they were specifically trying to use it to commit a crime, where they were calling for a hit on somebody, then I say you use those lyrics. But in no way, shape, or form it should be used in a RICO manner.
Yeah.
And I think that's lazy policing. I think it's lazy prosecution. And I think there should absolutely be an uproar over it. Now, and that's on the bigger picture. Am I going to lose sleep if Young Thug and his people specifically get jail time because of these lyrics? I'm not going to lose sleep over Young Thug and them, but I am going to lose sleep over the possible repercussions that could happen because of this. And I don't think it's right. And with anything, there's a good and bad to it. And I think I would much rather take the bad that would come from not using these lyrics as opposed to taking the good. And I don't think that to prosecute Black people and to throw them in jail, I don't think they need any more help than what they have. They've proven they're going to break the rules anyway to do it. I don't think we need to give them any further legal avenues to do it, because again, the more rope you give them, the more they're going to take. And so once you give them the lyrics, what else are they going to take underhandedly to help make their cases and to help figure things out? No, I under no circumstances do I think, like I said, unless you can specifically tie it to a specific crime they were trying to commit, or they were given instructions to their people on how to, unless you can prove that, then sure, use the lyrics. But if they can't specifically prove that, fuck them. No way.
Yeah. It's wild, man. It's wild. So, but yeah, that was a huge story for this year for me. But Hudson, you had something else you wanted to talk about?
Big thing for me was Roe v. Wade. Supreme Court went on ahead and struck that down.
Woo.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to it, body autonomy and women's rights and things like that. And it's funny, before our broadcast, before us recording here, I actually saw a video of this guy. He does like he has like these satanic kind of symbols in his background or whatever, but he basically started telling the story of Lilith, who was supposed to be the first wife of Adam. And supposedly Lilith and Adam were created at the same time. And so Lilith considered herself equal to Adam. And because of it, basically, she was cast away and taken away or something. And then later on, Eve was created. And so there was the thought pattern for some people who think the serpent was actually Lilith, who came back to try to show Eve, hey, this is what free thought is. Eat this apple. Basically is what they were saying, right? And one of the main points,
the shit you find on YouTube, sir.
Hey, one of the main points that he was trying to make is that even in the Bible, at any point a woman tried to consider herself equal or fight for any type of equality, they were shunned down. And here was another example of it with Roe v. Wade. And but the biggest thing that I come to is thinking about our political system. And I think about how important it is to have representatives who actually believe in the causes of their constituents. And while Republicans have it, Democrats don't. We don't have those, when you think about universal health care, You would think that this would be a total liberal wave of, yes, we want this universal health care. We want it. That's got to be a liberal thing. But no, it's considered extreme,
Fringe.
right? Even in the liberal circles, and they have nearly not enough support to get it done, right? And so what you would think, and that's because you don't have liberals in office, supposed liberals. We have Democrats, but we don't have liberals in office who actually
Mm-mm.
believe what their constituents think that they should have. But the Republicans do. And I think back to all those times where, you had those dumbass Republicans arguing about, hey, a woman's body has a way to shut down against rape. Um, there's stuff
Mhm.
the body can do to prevent it from getting pregnant if
Mhm.
if they didn't want that sexual contact or all this kind of mess. And how stupid
Mhm.
they are, but that's how stupid the constituents are. The constituents believe that same dumb shit too, and so do they. And all those, that guy who goes around to Trump rallies and makes fun of the Trump supporters
Mhm.
by showing them the irony and all the dumb shit that they believe.
Yeah.
This is what the Republicans in office actually believe. They are actual conservatives in there.
Mhm.
But we have conservatives masking as Democrats, masking as liberals to get elected. We don't have people, and the people who really do believe in the liberal ideals, we paint them as extreme, and we either don't vote them in or we try to water them down once they get in office.
Mhm.
And it's just crazy to me. I think this Roe v. Wade really shined a light on that for me. I knew it, but it really just hit home of how they believe in this stuff so much that they do it, right? While our people don't really believe the shit. They don't believe in the universal health care. They're split. They're really split on abortion, or else they'd have fought harder for it.
Mhm.
It's we have to start looking at it as they don't believe what we believe, and therefore they cannot represent us properly. And we're just we got to catch up to that line of thinking as a group.
So here's the problem. So when you look at the crazy things Republicans say, you can say yeah, it's because they're stupid, but a lot of times I feel like when you look at the background of these like this new wave and the Tea Party people that came in, you can say like they might literally be that crazy. They might literally be that stupid. But a lot of the old guard who is going along with what's being said and what's being done, they're not that stupid. You can look at their background and you can tell, no, considering the things you've done, the things you've been involved in, the level of competency you've displayed, I know you don't believe in this bullshit. But they're feeding the base. And more importantly, they're feeding the base that votes. And when I look at our Democratic leadership, I don't feel like the problem is that they don't represent us or that they're not representing what their constituents want to do. I don't think that's the issue at all. I think they're representing the constituents who actually vote. Yeah, there's a whole lot of people who want universal health care. A lot of them don't vote. There's a whole lot of people who want weed to be legalized. A lot of them don't vote. A lot of the liberals, the real liberals who really believe in like that left wing ideology, can't be bothered to roll out of bed on voting day and go up and go vote. Either because they don't want to be a part of the system, they don't believe their vote matters, whatever. People come up with a whole bunch of reasons for not to vote. But when you look at the statistics, the vast majority do not vote. And historically, the older population, which has also historically leaned more right wing, is much more likely to vote than the youth are. And that to me is what was really interesting about this recent voting cycle, because what I would say most people expected was a red wave, was for Republicans to take things over, shut them down. We talked about it a couple of times on the program here. But like Joe Biden is giving nothing for people who vote blue to really hang their hats on. Democrats are about to
Yeah,
get the floor wiped with them. And I
yeah,
honestly think they would have if not for Roe v. Wade. I think Roe v. Wade ignited a lot of the youth and a lot of women in a way nothing else did. And for them, it didn't matter that Biden's not doing anything. It didn't matter that a lot of Democrats are not getting anything to hang their hats on to, because a lot of them have come to the conclusion we are at war. And if we don't start rolling out the beds and start voting and start standing up for what we believe in, these absolute psychos are going to take all of our rights from us. And they're right. These people are
Yeah.
absolutely coming for your rights to be able to do certain things. So if you believe that gay folks should be able to marry, if you believe that women should be able to have an abortion, if you believe in all these basic freedoms that we've had, for quite some time now, then you better start getting your ass out there and supporting the representatives who you believe are going to stand with you. You can't stay on the sidelines. And I think there was a whole lot of young people before who were willing to stay on the sidelines. And I don't think Republicans expected that many of them to decide, all right, you know what, I'm going to get out of bed today. I'm going to go ahead and put my vote in. And this is probably going to be another problem in the general election for Republicans as well, because they're going to figure out how to level off that new playing field. But they still might be able to do it because at the end of the day, they have the constituency that is much more invested in actually voting.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree that's part of a problem, but I also still think there's just too many Democrats disguised out there.
Oh,
And
I'm
I-
sorry.
and
I
I,
didn't
and I
mean to dismiss what you were saying.
oh
I
yeah,
100% agree with you.
oh
Manchin
yeah,
and the
yeah.
rest of them, fuck those
You
guys.
know. Now, while these older Republicans might not believe in the dumb shit like a body shutting down, for
Right,
rape,
right.
they still, I believe, for the most part, I think 95 over 95% of them that
Hmm.
believe that abortion should be outlawed. I do
Hmm.
think that. While
Hmm.
I believe while I believe less than 50% of Democrats believe that there should be universal health care. You
Right,
know, I
right.
just, I think that's there. But you're right. All these Democrats, these liberals who believe in universal health care do have to roll out those mats, like you say, and they have to
Yeah.
vote. And we have to start recognizing who is a true liberal and who is just masquerading out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but definitely agree with you. Big story for 2022. And for the last one, again, it's on me. And I figured we'd end it on something a little lighter. I have found it absolutely hilarious to watch the slow decline of DC, which is, of course,
Oh,
the comics alternative to Marvel. And I'm speaking more specifically about the movie section of it, where they've basically decided to completely wipe out the Snyderverse. And now they're going to put James Gunn as the head of this whole entire thing, let him plan the whole thing out and figure out what's going on with it. Right now,
hmm,
I find there's a couple of things I find interesting about all this. First of all, I think the uproar regarding James Gunn taking over this position is hilarious because a lot of people see it as basically a mediocre white man failing his way upward. Right? They
right.
did the boring thing, which is yet another middle aged white man at the head of everything. Okay, sure, but they're like, what is James Gunn done that actually proves he's worthy of this kind of power? And look, I'm
Mhm.
middle of the road. I don't really care about this. I'm much more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, but I still just like good comic book movies in general. So it'd be nice to have a functioning DC department. I enjoy Joker. All right, but looking right down
Mhm.
the middle on this, right? I kind of feel like they're right. What the fuck has James Gunn done? Like
Yeah.
if you really look at it, he's had what really one successful movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. Like when I say successful,
Yeah.
I mean successful on the level where you're like, okay, he could run this kind of thing. He can take this thing to the next level. Right? Guardians of the Galaxy
Right.
was fantastic. All right, I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. All right.
Absolutely.
Guardians of
Hmm.
the Galaxy 2 was cool. All right. I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because I liked one. All right. Two by itself, it just
Hmm.
really isn't all that much. Suicide
Right.
Squad 2, definitely a step up from the first Suicide Squad, which was absolute total garbage. Suicide Squad 2 was pretty nice, but at the same time, it's not that much different from Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it pretty much gives you that same feel, which does not give me confidence that James Gunn is the type of person you can put in charge of a whole Marvel, a whole DC universe, who will be able to come up with different films. And of course, I understand he's not directing them all; he's just producing them. But let's be honest, like a lot of the Marvel movies can sometimes feel cookie cutter, right? But they had
Right.
enough identity, enough variation that I could feel like, all right, Captain America is a different person from Iron Man, is a different person from Thor. Like we had these characters all across these different universes, and the different universes felt different. Like Winter Soldier felt completely different from Iron Man 1 and 2. I haven't seen anything that makes me feel like James Gunn is capable of leading a universe that's going to do something like that. And for mediocre white dude to fail his way up into the highest position, and then one of the
Mhm.
first things you do is essentially cut off the only female director that has made the only female comic book movie of real note. Because let's be honest, Captain Marvel did well because it was the last movie before Infinity War. It didn't do well
Right.
because it was such a great movie. And people felt
Right.
like old girl did a fantastic acting job and all that. No, no, no. It was the lead up for Infinity War. So a whole bunch of people went to see it to make sure that they would be ready to go when the rest of the movies rolled out. It was not good on its own. Wonder Woman
Yeah.
was an incredible movie all on its own. There was nothing else propping that movie up. And I forget the director's name, but her and Gal Gadot made that. Wonder Woman 2 came
Mhm.
out. Trash. I hated that movie. It was absolute
Mhm.
trash. I agree with the critics. It was absolute trash. Was it so terrible that she didn't deserve the opportunity to make a third one? I don't believe that for a fucking minute. I think it's absolutely incredibly fucking disrespectful that she was not, she is, it appears at least, they are not going to be given the opportunity to finish their trilogy. Wonder Woman is really the flagpole of that whole Snyderverse. Like that is the movie, the only movie that came out that was great right from the jump. All the other ones
Mhm.
needed reshoots. You needed an extended version. You needed to sit down for 4 hours to watch this movie. All the rest of them had other nonsense going on. Wonder Woman
Yeah.
was the only movie that came out where everybody was like, yo, right off the bat, this is awesome. And you don't need 3 hours for it. We don't need anything extra. What you put into theaters is exactly what we needed to see. How Patty Jenkins, that's her name. How in the hell do you decide, well, we gonna do something new, so we gonna wipe out everything, and Patty Jenkins can't do her third movie? While at the same time, I'm not hearing anything about the absolute trash that James Gunn put out. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna call it trash. Like I didn't see Peacekeeper, his HBO show. From what I've heard, it's actually decent, but the ratings are terrible. Nobody's going to
Mm.
see that shit. Nobody went to see Suicide Squad 2. You haven't heard a
Yeah, I still haven't
thing.
seen it.
Come on now. I saw it. It was
Yeah.
decent, but it's not somewhere it was like, oh man, I need a third one. You haven't heard a
Mhm.
thing about any of that being canceled, about any of that wiped clean. But we definitely need y'all to know Wonder Woman 3 not going down. How, bro? How? I
Yeah.
think
You know, I
it's
think
crazy to watch. Crazy to watch.
I think you hit the nail really on the head when you talked about briefly when you talked about Captain Marvel and how everyone just saw it because it was the lead up to the Infinity War. And there you go. What Marvel has been able to do, what Marvel has made me be able, and I know a lot of other people be able to absolutely sit through a ton of snooze fest
Come
because
on.
let me be
I gotta
real.
be up to
I
date.
thought all the Thor movies were pretty much snooze fest to me, but
Trash.
I sat through them.
Trash.
I sat through them, right? because because I just for those little tidbits that would come in, those little Easter eggs that would lead to the bigger overall story and picture. And Marvel has geniusly been able to do that. Now they're starting to lose that. And
Mhm.
you know, I think that it's just hard to hold that kind of thing together over long term. But you know, they're still riding that high of Infinity War. But you know, when you do that, you make it where everybody has to see everything. And even if you get bad ratings, you know, I saw bad ratings on Thor, Love and Thunder and all that. But I was
Right.
still like, I better go see it. You know, because it's gonna tie into something else.
Right.
And so I still took my ass to see it,
I
right?
held out for
But
Thor:
I
Love and
I
Thunder. Was
have
that worth seeing?
uh
No,
you know,
right?
I mean, it was yeah,
Right. That's what I
I
figured. All
mean,
right, go ahead.
yeah. But you know, it's that thing where I have felt no need to watch any specific um, DC movie. I haven't
Nope.
felt any need to watch it, and their prime having those the Justice League come together and have that movie, but there was no tie-in for me, no reason for me to watch Aquaman or you know or see any of those other people. So, right? So you know, Justice League, I could just watch it without watching any of the rest, and there you go. And so they have made it where it's just all separated and all stripped apart. It's all over the place for me, and Suicide Squad doesn't tie into anything.
Mm-mm.
You know,
No.
not worth it in any way for me to, you know. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's like, what the fuck? You know, you look at that whole franchise and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? And when you put it next to Marvel, who has seemingly who has seemingly planned this thing out step by step by step. Like, I am
Yeah.
convinced for all of the Infinity War saga, I am convinced that there was one giant script for the whole thing
Mm,
from
mm,
beginning to end
mhm.
that was sitting in like whole rooms just filled with that giant ass script from the
Come on now.
whole 28,000 movies that were involved in it, right? And they
Mhm.
just pieced the different ones out for the specific movies. I am convinced they did that, right? DC has nothing like that going on. And so it just makes them look like a rinky dink operation over there. And they basically have been, but it makes them especially look like that when Marvel did what it did.
So there's one other aspect of this that I want to talk about as well. All the Snyderverse people online complaining and whining, saying the Snyderverse was the best and you should just continue with the Snyderverse, yada, yada, yada. The one good thing about James Gunn taking this over is that he's going to wipe all that crap out because I'm sorry. What you end up with is a whole bunch of people online who got these very strong opinions about how things should be, but none of them actually go to the movie theaters. And I feel like that's a very, very consistent thing with these people who complain online, especially when they're complaining about diversity. It's the same thing that happened with Captain Marvel. You had
Yeah.
this whole huge waves of people saying, oh, she's disrespectful towards men, and this is all just woke garbage, having this woman in front of this movie, and Marvel is terrible for this, yada yada yada. And we won't support this, and we're gonna tear this movie down. And then it does $1 billion because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, these people don't matter. These are not the real consumers. They're just people who like to talk shit online. So a bunch of
Yeah.
people who like to talk shit online, they were fighting and fighting and fighting. And The Rock, unfortunately, he hedged his bets on these people. Like I actually just saw Black Adam before we started recording this because I wanted to see what a
Mm.
hubbub was about. And I think Black Adam was actually a pretty decent movie. But The Rock made the mistake of thinking that if he hitched his wagon with Henry Cavill and got these Snyderverse guys on his side, that all of a sudden he get a whole wave of people going to the movie theater, and then he would be able to have a lot more power at DC and use that to create a more expanded universe. That ain't the case because none of these motherfuckers actually go to the movies. They just sit
Yeah.
at home in front of their little microphones and they talk trash about different projects and tell you what you should be doing, even when they have no actual intention of supporting anything that you do. So they didn't come out to see Snyder's movies. They didn't come out to see Black Adam. And now Snyder and The Rock are essentially out of DC. James Gunn is going to wipe the slate clean. I have no idea what he's going to do, but whatever it is, I can guarantee you he will not be listening to any of those Snyderverse folks, and rightfully so. You only have a voice if you're willing to put your money behind what you're saying. If I can't
Yeah.
get more money or more support for my project by listening to you, then your words have zero meaning. Zero
Yeah.
meaning. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's the last of the things that we felt like were really, really notable for this year. Hope all of you enjoyed this conversation. We definitely enjoyed it. Try to end that on a lighter tone, but as I'm sure all of you know, it's been a rough year. It's been a rough year. A lot of crazy things have occurred this year, but looking forward to 2023. Hopefully, it brings us a lot of a lot happier moments. I'm certainly rooting for it. But until then, until our next episode, as always, I'm your host, Samori. With me is Hudson. And I wish
Happy
you all
New Year.
a happy new year. We will see you all next year in the next episode. Take care.
Was the thing was that thing that rolls out?
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't have one.
I think you're doing a pretty good imitation of it, sir. Take care, y'all.